You know, and when he gets it right, make sure he's winning. If the horse isn't winning, you're going to lose. You know, if the horse can't profit from the situation, you won't be able to profit very long either. I hope you've looked at the groundwork fundamentals that we did recently, and now we're going to take those same fundamentals and get onto the horse's back. Now over here in Europe, there are Western events, raining and these kind of things, but there's a few less cowboys over here than what you might find in other places. What you might want to do is teach your horse to come on over to the mounting block, and you would use the same techniques of work, come in here and be comfortable, and cause your idea to become the horse's idea. So my horse thinks that this is a great spot for getting a good old back scratch, and I could teach him to come across there in a number of different ways. But what's important is that I can stand up here on the mounting block, work the horse a little bit, bring him across here and become comfortable, and so that it becomes his idea as well. I really like the mounting block. And one of the things that can work well as far as comfort goes, if I want the horse to bring the saddle across here, I can't really be feeding his mouth. So what I can use as a positive reinforcement is wither scratching. And wither scratching is very, very effective whenever I'm looking to try and get some sort of relationship going with the horse. You know, I rely a lot upon wither scratching. Scratch, 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 and it's something that you'll see the horse will stick his nose out there and really kind of like that. Oh, that's good. That's a good man. And whenever the horses, you know, whether it's in the trailer or if you were going to clip the horse or whatever, use that wither scratching response. Scientifically, we know that it lowers the heart rate, and horses actually like it. If you can, if you're interested in becoming a good horseman, try and lose that habit of smacking them on the neck like that. It's really not something that horses like. I know everyone does it, but it's not because everyone does it that it's good. So wither scratching is a lot better than slapping them on the neck. You know, it's not as demonstrative, but the horses really like it. So whenever the horse is in the right spot, give him a good old scratch up here, and you'll find pretty quickly, if the horse thinks, wow, this is the greatest spot, he can really get up there above my withers and scratch me, you'll find pretty quickly that your horse will start thinking, wow, that's terrific, and start stepping in here like that, and finding that that's the greatest spot to be. Bring the shoulders across here a little, man. There you go. Move that over. And pretty happy that you've got all the control that you had in the beginning. When you get on the horse, you probably is going to start him off in a halter here, like we would with most young horses. I like to bring the nose across this way a little bit, step up, and try not to pull on the saddle. You can push on it, just can't pull on it. So push up here, pause, pass your leg over and sit down. But what's really important is that your horse stays nice and still. Now, if you're rocking him and you're losing his balance, he's going to move his feet. So push on that saddle. Don't pull on it. Don't put your hand on the back of the saddle and pull. Put your hand on the front, push up. Once you get into this position here, you know, you can take your foot out of the stirrup. You can stay there. So you don't have the weight in the stirrup. You have the weight in the saddle. Step up there. Wriggle around a little bit, move your legs, move your arms, and don't move his feet. The horse should be standing still. When you get on, his feet shouldn't be already moving. If he's already moving his feet, you're no longer the pilot, you've become the passenger. Now, when I'm sitting on 600 kilos of horse, I don't want to be the passenger. I don't want to be taken for a ride. I'd like to go for a ride, but I don't want him to take me for one. So I step up here and make sure he's nice and still. And the next thing I'll do is start to control his body. We'll have a look at that now. So I've stepped up on my horse. We haven't moved his feet yet. Really make sure when you're with your horse that you're moving his feet, that he doesn't decide to move his feet without you. Otherwise, as I said before, you're rapidly becoming a passenger. You're no longer the pilot. And teach the horse to stand still. If he moves, I'd be bringing his head around here and bending him until his feet stopped. And he learns pretty quickly, uncomfortable if I move, comfortable if I don't move. But you don't hold the horse still. Don't try and make a horse stand still. You won't get it done. Things will get worse. but make it uncomfortable if he moves. I can't hold 600 kilos of horse still, but I can make it uncomfortable if he moves so that he decides to stand still. I hope you can see the difference in that. So reach up here now, just make sure that you're not leaning forward here. You can bring this up, lift, slide, bring that round and plant it on your leg. Just make sure that the horse is working out how to remove the pressure from himself. We've already done it on the ground, lift, slide, bring the horse's nose around and make sure that he's removing the pressure from himself. When he yields, release quickly. So you should be able to bend the horse's head around here to each side, and we haven't yet moved the horse's feet. So lift, slide, bring that around towards my leg and release quickly. Hands that close slowly and open quickly. It's one of the keys to having lightness. So lift on that. We haven't moved his feet yet, and we're just bending his head around to each side. Make sure that we can do that and isolate just the head and the neck area. That's nice. Haven't moved the feet. From there, if I've got that nice light bend, what I can do is I can slide the leg back on the same side and just step the hindquarters across. Now I've got a light bend here and just moving the hind end across and put a little pressure here with my leg and step that across. I should be able to do that to each side. I should be able to step the hindquarters over here, okay, and then step the hindquarters over here. Now, and make sure that when I put my leg back here that he knows that if he moves the hindquarters over, the leg comes away. So I put my leg back, he moves the hindquarters over, the leg comes away. Do the same thing here and move the hindquarters over. And just make sure that I'm getting a message down to his feet. If I can't get the message down to his feet, I'm not going to be able to control his body. He's on his feet. So I've got the head, I've got the head and neck. I can bring that around here and not move his feet. And if I put my leg on, I can move the feet across. So I've got the hindquarters, move the hindquarters across here, move the hindquarters across here. That's pretty good. And now I can do the same with the front end. Now that'll require a direct rein, so I lead that across. Make sure you're not pulling with either rein. Like the opening rein, as they call it here in France, it opens, it doesn't pull. There are no pulling reins. So open that across and then move with the outside rein, the shoulder across. Lead it and push it. Okay, look at that on the other side. Lead it and push it, but don't pull it. Lead it and push it. And push that shoulder across. So I can push the shoulders across here, lead it and lead the shoulders and push them across here. Now I'm getting messages from my hands and legs down to his feet. I can isolate the hindquarters, step those across, isolate the forequarter and step that across. If I can do that, I can do it in a constant movement. So what that would mean is I could walk my horse forward, and any horse should be able to do this. Step the hindquarters over, 1, 2, 3, and then open it and bring the front end through, 1, 2, 3. There we go, and walk on. Now I could do that, I'll do that as I ride down towards you. Okay, so I'll ride my horse towards you here, and I'll move the hindquarters over, 1, 2, 3, that's pretty good. Open it, bring the front end through, 2, 3, and then keep going down that same line. So I'd be able to, it's kind of like waltzing his feet, 1, 2, 3, hindquarters, 1, 2, 3, forequarters. Anytime that I touch the reins, I'll be looking for lightness. I would, if that knot underneath his chin there, if that picks up, he needs to yield. What I don't want is that knot being up in the air and his head being, his nose being stuck out there to where I can put a coffee cup on his nose. That's not what I want. So if I tighten the reins, he has to yield. Now I teach that, we teach that. That's anything, you know how to get pressure and response. Put a pressure on, when he yields, remove the pressure. And that would be the same thing whether I was bringing his head round to the right or to the left. And it's the same thing with your legs. So you can bring the head round to the right and to the left. You can move the hindquarters across, 1, 2, 3, that's pretty good. Open it and lead the front end through and then continue. So sometimes if my horse was getting a little bit bothered by the environment, you know, sometimes you might go into a big indoor arena, there's a big show jumping on or something, and there's thousands of people and big screens and lots of noise and balloons and music and the whole shebang, and your horse is getting a little tight, a little bothered about that. Dance his feet. Do that dance. Do that horseman's dance where you move the hindquarters across and then bring the front end through. And if you're occupying his feet, if you're keeping his feet busy, you'll keep his mind busy, and he can't concentrate on two things. You know, he's nowhere near as brilliant as my wife. He can't do 5 things at the same time. So while I'm dancing with his feet, he's not getting bothered by other things, and I'm getting the feet under control. If I don't control his feet, the environment will. So step him across here, move the hindquarters across again, move your leg well back so that you can isolate the hindquarters, isolate the forequarters, and then continue down your track. And get those messages from your legs, from your hands and legs, down to his feet. Hindquarters there, forequarters there. That's pretty good. And if I feel like I've got control of his feet now, I can move the hindquarters, I can move the forequarters, and I can move the hindquarters and the forequarters in a continuous movement. That's pretty good. Everything I did on the ground, I should be able to carry up onto his back. You know, I should be able to make lots of noise up here and make sure that he's not scared, he's not moving his feet. So I know I've got confidence, I know I've got control of his feet, and we'll check it out pretty soon whether he's connected with me. Once I've got the basic control under control, so I've got the lateral flexion, the hindquarters and the forequarters, and I can move them in a continuous movement. I feel like I'm dancing with his feet and the environment's not got any control. Well, at that time, then I start to work on, there's 3 big subjects that I've got lots and lots of work to do, which is direction. Can I really control where he's going between the reins, between my legs? Impulsion, have I got good brakes and a good accelerator? And flexion, when I pick up on the reins, is the horse yielding or is he resisting? So I work on those 3 things. Now, if everyone could just have those 3 things under control, basic control, we just looked at that, and direction, impulsion, and flexion, and everyone, every breed, every horse, every discipline, every breed should be able to do this. So I should be able to walk my horse and just steer him around with my legs. Now, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to look where I'm going to go, put a little pressure with the leg, and when he moves off the leg, take the leg away. But I'd like to be able to steer the horse. We're not talking about having him bent around on the circle and all of those flash things yet. It's no point having the horse bent on the circle if you can't even do the circle. So let's just make sure, can I steer my horse? And try and get these things as light as you can. So look, focus where you're going to go, put the lower leg on, and build up the pressure down to your heel, and then remove it when he yields. And pretty soon you'll find that if you're looking, and try and get your focus nice and high up there in the trees. Look up into the trees, try and find the monkey. Where's the monkey in the tree? Where's the monkey in the tree? So looking up into those trees there, if I don't look at the trees, I'll be looking down here. And the problem with that is I'll be leaning into my turns, and I'll be turning the horse, but he won't be getting balanced in his turn. He'll turn, but through lack of balance or loss of balance rather than turning balanced. So I'd like to look up there and make sure I'm not leaning, like I don't want him to turn like a motorbike. So I look up there nice and high and I push him across here. And I look up there nice and high and I push him across here. We've got that kind of idea of that outside rein here. I could lead him across here and then just push that outside rein across here. Make sure I'm not crossing over. If I cross over the neck too much, if I start getting way across here like that, can you see that if I'm pulling on that rein and I'm trying on the outside rein here, his nose is over there. So it's not going to work out for him. If you want to use the outside rein, you can, but don't pull on it, push on it. I sometimes like to put my hands down there and help the horse a little bit. It might put you into a bit of an unorthodox sort of strange riding position, but that's okay, he doesn't care. Put down there and then push that across, and just make sure I've got him between my legs and between my reins. And we'll look a bit more at that in the future. So once I can steer him a little bit, I'd like to make sure that I've got an accelerator and I've got brakes. So I'm steering him around. I'll just make that a little bit more obvious for you. I'll steer him down towards you and turn a little bit so that you can see that. And I'm trying to use the lightest pressure as possible, but I will build it up if need be. And I could use a stick, or I could, you could use spurs or whatever. Most people that criticize whips and spurs just don't know how to use them. So step that across there and step that across there. And then being able to, now I'm pushing. If I was going to step across here, I'd push with this outside leg. It's not going forward or backwards or anywhere. It's just there where as if I'd always like to be able to stand up in the stirrups. If I can't stand up, I'm probably not in a good position. So I can always just stand up like that. Now, if I can stand up, my leg is in a good position. You can try it at home. If you stand up, if you put your feet out in front of you, you'll fall on your backside. And if you put your feet behind you, you'll fall on your nose. So your feet have got to be under you in order to stand up. If you can't stand up, you're probably sitting like in a toilet position or something like that. You know, the toilet position is not a good position as far as visually, it's not pretty, but also it puts a lot of weight on the horse's back. If you can get your legs underneath you and make sure you're not sitting on the horse, you're riding him, you're not just going for a ride. There's a big difference. So I'm sitting on that horse, I'm holding myself up nice and light, I'm trying to be light on his back, and as I put that leg on, just where he goes, where he is, and I start building up pressure, and as he moves away from it, I remove the leg. Now, of course, the inside leg needs to get out of his way. So you want to be careful of that. Sometimes see people trying to steer the horse with their legs, great idea, but they're getting that inside leg stuck out there. It's like the leg's eating some Viagra or something, and he's got all stiff and stuck out there, and he's getting in the way of the horse's shoulder. You can't move my horse across here if my shoulder, if this foot is sticking out there in front of his shoulder, and I'm trying to do that, that's not going to work out. You just need to take it off the horse a little bit. Just remove that leg. Show that inside leg. I'll ride towards you. So I'll come around here, and as I ride towards you, that inside leg just needs to be all light. Just move off him a little bit, and then get all light and just move off him a little bit. It doesn't need to stick out there. Once it's off him, it's off him. It doesn't, further off him won't help any. So steer that horse around between your legs and help the horse. In the beginning, he won't understand. You'll put the pressure on. When he finds the correct response, you remove the pressure. And as you get that better, make sure you've got control of his shoulders in the beginning. You know, can he just step that shoulder across there? Or can I step that shoulder across there? See, if I put that leg on and step that shoulder across. If I can't already just step the shoulder across, you know, maybe he hasn't understood that he needs to move away from that pressure, even though I did some things with my hands, keeping you up. Step that across, and if I can step that shoulder across there and step that shoulder across there, chances are that as I'm riding my horse, I can steer him. If I can steer him, next thing I'd like to look at is the brakes and the accelerator. It wouldn't really matter, I suppose, what you did, as long as you always did the same thing and you helped the horse understand what you meant. So what I tend to do is just sort of rock my belt buckle forward like that, and then put on a little leg pressure. Now the important thing is I rock the belt buckle forward, put on some leg pressure. As soon as the horse moves forward, I remove that leg pressure. Don't fall into the trap, particularly with colder types of horses. You know, lazy, as some people call them. I don't really believe it, but don't fall into that trap of keeping the horse going forward. If you're doing that, you'll end up desensitizing the horse. He'll get really, really heavy. So as I just move my shoulders over this way so that you can see that, pop that shoulder there we go. Now in front of you, I roll my hips forward, put some leg on, and then when he moves forward, I'm taking the legs away. Now I wouldn't ride my horse with my legs stuck out here like this. That gives me a butt cramp. But my legs aren't holding the horse, aren't keeping the horse going forward. If he dropped behind me a little, if he wasn't going forward, if he wasn't maintaining himself, you know, I might put some leg back on and speed his feet up a little bit, or correct, allow him to make the mistake and fix it up, but I wouldn't maintain. The horse needs to learn to maintain rhythm himself, and if I fall into the trap of maintaining that for him, I'll desensitize the horse accidentally. He'll get used to the leg pressure, and then I'll have to do more and more. Now, if you're getting into the trap of doing more and more and getting less and less, it's probably time to change, because your goal is to do less and less and get more and more. And people tend to, you know, they start off nice and light with a simple bit, and then they end up having to get a bigger one and a bigger one, and next thing they've got a giant shanky thing with his nose closed shut and bike chains and all sorts of things hanging off his face, and they're getting less and less from more and more, and they start off, they've got nothing on their feet, and they end up with getting little spurs, bigger spurs, medium-sized spurs, and great big spurs, because they're desensitizing the horse. So the goal would be to be able to get more by doing less. Every good horseman would know that. Now, I can steer the horse around here, so I can mix the two together. I can move his shoulders across this way. I can speed his feet up a little bit. I can probably even slow his feet down a little bit and speed his feet up a little bit. And that would be coming out of that seat where you could block my seat a little bit and then roll it forward again. And I could start playing with that. Now, before you can do that, make sure you can stop. Okay, so I push my hips forward, speed his feet up a little bit. I've got a nice rhythm in his feet, and now I'm just going to block the seat. So what I do when I block the seat is I think about pushing that belt buckle backwards. So I've gone forwards and I've pushed the horse forwards. I can block that seat and think about pushing that backwards. And as I push it backwards like that, I'll probably have to close my thighs. Now, I've done a lot of different types of equitation, whether it be Western or classical or whatever, and different people do different things. So, you know, on Western, sometimes I'd rock back a little bit, my feet might roll forward a bit, and I'd take the legs off and the horse would stop. I'd do that, then I'd stop the horse, I'd do that, then I'd stop the horse, then I'd do that, and then I'd stop the horse, and pretty soon when I did that, the horse would stop. So it wouldn't really matter what you did. What I do when I'm riding more in a more classical type of situation is that I block and actually close my legs up here. I don't use the lower legs to go drive forward. So when I block my hip, when I'm blocking my pelvis, it's moving with the horse here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And when I'm blocking that pelvis, I find it easier if I close my thighs. You don't have to do what I do, but do something before you do what you do with your hands. So do something with your body before you do something with your hands. Block the body, use the hands. Now, if it took 2 steps to stop his feet, back up 2 steps. But do something with your body before you do it with your hands. It's the same with turning. If I was going to turn my horse, I do something with my body, and then I use my hands if he doesn't turn. Don't use the reins to turn the horse, use the reins if he doesn't turn. Don't use the reins to stop the horse, use the reins if he doesn't stop. So, you know, all these good horsemanship principles, they should be getting out there. They should be, everyone should be hearing them. Not only, you know, good horsemen, they're all using the same idea, the same fundamentals. And now understand the science behind it is there's a Pavlovian signal, which is something that means nothing, that precedes, that happens just before something that means something. So let me try that for you. I block my seat, that doesn't mean anything. And now I stop the horse with my hands and back him up. And pretty soon when I stop my seat, the horse knows what's going to happen before what happens, and he responds to the seat. So I've used a Pavlovian signal and followed it with an operant response, and now the Pavlovian is working. It's the same thing as I might just use a light transfer of weight and a really light pressure with my leg to turn that horse, and it's not an adversive pressure, it's not an uncomfortable pressure. But if he didn't turn, it would get uncomfortable, and then I'd go from the Pavlovian into the operant. So I've got forward, I've got stop, and the horse is now, because I'm doing that with my body and not out of my hands, I can drive the horse, we can go forward, I can turn, I can stop, I can accelerate, I can slow down. You'll probably find that generally one of the ears of the horse is looking back at you, kind of like when you're circling the horse on the ground. If you haven't got an ear that's regularly coming back to you, you know, unfortunately there's no translation in French for feeling back to you. And I'd love to be able to tell the French what feeling back to you means, but we don't have a translation. We don't even have a translation for horsemanship. We have a translation for a horseman, but horsemanship is a little bit more complicated. So what I would do there, I can drive the horse, we can go forward, we can stop, and we can turn, and the horse is understanding my legs and my seat, which is pretty good. And now, if the horse is understanding my legs and my seat, I could introduce the hands, probably before I start putting the horse into any sort of flexion with the hands. I'll just trot him a little and make sure that as we trot, so pop him up into a trot here, make sure I'm not maintaining him. And just every horse should be able to trot around on a loose rein. Every horse should be able to trot around on a loose rein. And you should be able to block your seat and stop the horse's feet. And then with light pressure, drive the horse forward. Every horse, you should be able to trot around like a cowboy. One hand on your leg, other one here, maybe change directions. Block your seat and bring the horse down to a stop. Make sure that you're not holding the horse forward. Make sure that you're not holding the horse back. If you can't release the reins without the horse speeding up, you're in flight response and things are going to come undone. Trouble is coming. So if he got too fast, I'd bring him back to me, let him make the mistake, bring him back to me, allow him to make the mistake, bring him back to me, until he's staying with me, until he's staying connected. We've talked about the confidence of the horse. He shouldn't be afraid. We should have control of his feet, and the horse should remain connected. So 3 C's that are pretty important: the confidence, the control, and the connection. And now, if I've got those things going on, and as far as loose rein riding goes, you know, you'd want to be able to ride freestyle, as some people call it. You'd want to be able to ride freestyle in all 3 gaits: walk, trot, and canter. Be able to release the reins and not have the horse speeding up. Otherwise, you're in flight response and something's going to go wrong. You know, the horse is going to duck out of his jumps. He's not going to jump well anyway. He's going to be jumping over all tight with his head in the air, and then you're going to, oh, well, we'll have to put some sort of contraption on his head and everything's going to fall apart. So just make sure that your horse is in self-carriage, that he's going forward and you're not pushing him forward and you're not holding him back. If you don't have self-carriage, trouble is coming, and you know, any good dressage rider should know that if you don't have self-carriage, trouble is coming.